Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and this is Outsiders, and today's DM's Tips is all about using the past. Now that's going to sound odd because a lot of you are still quite new DMs and some of you are slightly more experienced, and then we have some super experienced DMs. But this next piece of advice, as always, has a huge amount of merit in it, and it's purely built on things that I've done over the years that have proved to be very, very successful with my players in experienced groups and bringing on new players. Now, one of the problems you often have as a DM is, I'm a great believer personally that you try to role play skills, and I do everything that I can in the way that I referee to try and encourage that from the players. But one of the hardest things to be able to do is obviously, say you're starting a new campaign up and you want to try and give some information to the players without it being contrived, a knowledge religion roll or local knowledge information, all those sort of things, and you think, God, if only there was a better way. Well, there is actually. This is where using the past is absolutely critical in your DMing for the future, because one of the great things you can do is, if you've got a particular favourite setting, let's use a very familiar one that a lot of fantasy people will know, which would be, of course, Forgotten Realms. Now, if you use that once in a particular area, and campaigns run to a conclusion or whatever, even if it wasn't successful, you've got a load of information there that you've learned from that, and so have your players, even if it's their first experience with that setting. So the next time that you go into Forgotten Realms, even if you base it a little bit away from that location or whatever, they've already got some previous information locked in their heads. Actively encourage the players to use information from the past, because I do apologise, I don't know what that is out there. It sounds like a street cleaner going off, I do apologise, but I won't get a second chance to take this video, so I'm going to have to live with it. One of the prices of an Uber, I'm afraid. However, use the past information. Explain to your players that it's actually okay to use information that they've learnt from before. Now this really does break away from some of the way that some DMs like to run, but let me try and clarify why. Because their characters then, when they've created, will have a plethora of information that they can then draw upon. So for example, if in the previous campaign they were playing a cleric of, I don't know, just any particular god, springs to mind, Desna for example, they've got information about that deity, so when you next run a situation in the next campaign, they may be playing a completely different character, but why not allow them to draw on a little bit of that information that they know about? Because it just brings your game world to life rather than having to resort to books. So I always say to my players, look, you're more than welcome to bring in information from previous campaigns, but do be aware that what you might be bringing in may not be actually accurate here. So always treat it as a pinch of salt, because each campaign is different. But drawing from the past can be fantastic for your game, because what is better than one of the players saying, yeah, I've heard of that, and I remember this, and this, and you as a DM haven't had to say a word. Surely that's the whole point. Because I've said before, one of the keys to DMing, absolute fundamentals, is you use this less than you use those, because you have twice as many as of these. So the reality is that you must, it's like being really, you set the scene and then you step back. And the beautiful thing with prior information, as long as it's used in the right way, and again, this may take some vetting by you as DMs, but try to run with it a little bit. Keeping your campaign information and reutilising things from the past, even allowing some of your players to doing research and stuff, can really help you as the game unfolds. So even if it's little things like, I think, as you've shown an interest in Dragon Disciple creatures, why don't you go away and have a read up about them? So when it comes to the game, the player can say, yeah, I remember reading up a little bit about them. Isn't that the one that's da-da-da-da-da? Isn't that what it does? Whether that's right or wrong, it just saves you any time. It saves you, an mountain of time. And the beautiful thing is, it just makes your game come to life. So utilising the past as a DM is a fantastic piece of advice. I don't ever see it being given out as a tip, which completely surprises me, to be honest with you, because to me, it's bread and butter. And it's the sort of thing that, I don't know, maybe I'm different, but I think it's invaluable. And the great thing is that you know, I don't utilise the same things over and over, but what I have been able to draw upon is I can do a campaign now, which I'm running, and then in 5 years down the line, touch on something from that campaign, and somebody in the group go, "Ah, yeah, isn't that da da da? Isn't that what we did? Isn't that this? Or isn't that that? Weren't those creatures that? What harm does it do? Because it brings your game world to life. Because somebody's heard of them, which is what you want from a campaign, surely. So as a new DM, build off your previous campaigns. Occasionally resort back to the past with little snippets and let your players do all the talking. It's a great way to get buy-in, actually. Anyway, I've been Sean Collins. This has been DM's Tips, using the past to help the future. Till the next time, take care of yourselves, and apologies about the interruption in the middle. Anyway, all the best. Happy gaming.